Step into the powder room with Kel.
All right, the time is 8 o'clock right here on this beautiful Wednesday night right here in Lagos. My name is Kel, and it is time for us to step into the powder room. Yes, this is your one-stop shop for all things women, for women, by women, and maybe sometimes by men. Because we like to add the men in the conversation as well. As always, I'm not alone. I have a guest with me. Now, she was on the first season of The Powder Room, and I had to bring her back. I didn't want to bring her back so soon, but you know what? When it's time, it is time. All right. Girl, stop. All right. So, she is the co-founder. She's a co-founder of the Task Creative Company. Okay. She is a director at Incredible Music, which is a record label. That's right. And also the co-founder of Fury, a fashion accessory brand, which I am proudly rocking. Thank you. I did see it. You can describe her as a creative director, a culture alchemist, and a nightlife consultant. She has over 15 years of entertainment experience, and that spans across event curation, project management, content creation, storytelling. I'm not quite sure why she didn't add performing actual music in here, but it's all good. Wow. Now, she is a woman of very many talents, and I'm talking about none other than Debbie Romeo.
Wow, it's me.
Oh my days. Oh, I can't.
I'm actually very excited to be here today. Thank you very much for having me.
I can feel your excitement.
That's good.
It's the effect I have on people. It's how I do. But today is not about me. It's not about me. It is about what we're speaking about. We are speaking about pivoting. Now you might wonder, what is pivoting? Well, pivoting is basically to go back to the basics. It's a pivot in a personal life is like a fundamental change in your life strategy, right? You change your direction in life, but you still keep the same life vision, and you consider the facts you learned about yourself and, of course, your environment. So there's a whole lot of growth that surrounds pivoting. It's not just jumping randomly from place to place, from job to job, from career path to career path. No, it's about way more than that. And I wanted to discuss this with you because I don't know when you got so serious, Debbie, but I saw this video on your page where you were talking about pivoting. And I was like, you know what? A lot of people actually are doing this, but they are not aware that they're doing this. Some people are doing it well. Some people are doing it not so well. Some people are really just confused and don't know what they're doing with their lives, which is understandable. It happens. Yeah. So I want to ask you now, pivoting to you, what does it mean?
So, as a professional pivoter, I'm going to say two things to start with. One is that none of us knows. We don't know what we're doing on Earth. We're all just figuring it out. I promise you, nobody knows what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So the first thing about pivoting that I will say is just be open to pivoting. Like, it's something that you have to have in the back of your mind, regardless of what you're doing, and not in a fatalistic way where you're thinking, oh, the thing I'm doing now, it's not going to work, but more in the sense of I'm growing constantly as a human being, and I will eventually want to change something about myself, something fundamental about myself, because I have more information now, or I have more understanding of something now. So that's one. The second thing I'll say about pivoting is that it happens to the worst of us, right?
How so?
It happens to the best of us. It happens to the worst of us. And the secret or the trick to becoming the person that just embraces it as it goes along is knowing that, like I said in that video that you saw, like, our lives as human beings, we're not designed to just be one thing. We're actually created with like a plethora of abilities, of skills, and all of that.
And I concur.
We are actually supposed to use all those different things because that's what makes us complete as human beings. And sometimes some of them might be primary. They might be primary activities at some point, and at a later point in your life, they might now become secondary activities. But all of them have a part to play in the development of your life as you go along. So yeah, those are the two things I'll say.
So basically, I would say when there's pivoting, there's growth.
Yes.
If you're doing it well.
Yes.
So let's talk about when people are not really pivoting, but they think they are pivoting. What does that look like?
What that looks like is, it looks like rash decisions. It looks like copying, doing things because they seem to be in fashion, they seem to be in trend, and not necessarily having like a fundamental reason, like a serious reason for which you want to pivot. And we find this a lot. It happens a lot in like the regular person's life.
Yeah.
Especially in Nigeria, where everything is just so like, everybody's just hungry. So people find themselves making important life decisions based off of a need for survival, and based off of seeing that somebody else is doing well at that thing.
That one
now,
right there.
A lot of people find themselves in situations where they've not done the work, so they haven't thought about the thing that they're about to get into. They haven't found out whether it will work for them or not. They've not found the details of how this person is getting it to succeed for themselves. So they're making this decision without enough information, and that is the worst way to pivot, to move into something without thinking about it, without planning, and without having an actual crucial reason that is not tied to something as flimsy as making money.
Has this ever happened to you before, where you start a thing and then there's a friend of yours who randomly wants to start it too as well, and it happens not once, not twice?
Yeah, that happens all the time to me.
How do you handle it?
I don't. I do not handle it.
And okay, so when it happens, how does it usually go for the other person? Does it crash and burn, or do they just move on to something else after a while?
So the thing is that I'm a master of minding my business. Like I'm the don of minding. If you don't involve me in it, I'm not going to be involved in it. If you're my close friend, I'm going to involve myself, but only to the extent that you want me to. So by that I mean, like, if it's someone that wants to do something that I'm already doing, and you have a conversation with me and be like, oh, how did this happen? Obviously, because we're friends, I'm going to tell you everything. I'm not going to pretend or lie to you or give you.
You're not like a gatekeeper of information.
I don't give a damn. Forgive my friends. Like, I actually don't, because I feel like everyone is unique, right? And when you're walking into any situation, you're coming with your own unique characteristics.
Yeah.
And for me, I believe in my soul's dying. I believe my soul's dying.
I love that. I love that.
So that I cannot be bothered by the fact that somebody else is trying to do the same thing that I'm doing, because you're never going to do it the same way I'm doing it. That's just the truth. So this does not mean you're going to do it poorly.
Yeah.
This just means that you're going to do it with the version of who you are in that moment. And that version of who you are in that moment is almost never going to be the same version of who I am in my own moment, right?
Yeah,
so
true.
I'm happy to help people understand things better, because it does make me happy. I'm not going to lie. Like, seeing people do well around me makes me happy. Connecting people to things that I'm doing that I feel like they might be interested in, it makes me happy. Those are things that I do on a normal day.
You're not a winch. These are your skin glows.
Hallelujah. You're spitting. I didn't think about it. It's the lack of bile in my system.
Because what I've noticed, especially in spaces where, unfortunately, and this is something that I've noticed with some women, unfortunately, because you would want your fellow woman to want to succeed.
Yes.
But then I also think about it from the other side of the bench or whatever. Like, maybe the woman feels like, since there are not many spaces for women, let me try and hold on to this one
that I can see
exactly
some benefits in.
Yeah, instead of thinking, you know what, if I grow, she grows, it's not even going to be a thing now where they're hiring women as a quota. You know, it'll just be a thing of they're competent and they're doing it. So now I want to ask, can people really lead different lives? Or if you pivot too much, can you get confused? Do you think it's possible?
First of all, for many of us, it's a blessing and a curse to have a lot of abilities. Because what that does to you is it kind of makes you confused, whether you like to admit
I was
it or
not expecting that.
Oh yeah, you're going to be confused. That's just life. Someone like me, for example, like, I grew up and I was just thrown into one version of life, right? But then I had all these other abilities. But because this one was the predominant one, it was a prominent one that everyone expected me to be doing, I just carried on with it, regardless of the fact that, number one, I'm a shy person I hated human beings as a child. Low-key, I still do. I didn't like to be around people. I didn't like to be around people. I didn't like to talk to people. I always wanted to be alone in the corner, reading a book and making sounds by my life. But because, like, you know, I'm a child growing up, and this is something you can do. Oh, go out and do it. Oh, do it in front of the people. Oh, do it for 50 people. Oh, now you're doing it for 100 people. So I'm gonna do it, but this is just simply out of nurture. So now, as I was growing into like a teenager, then I'm beginning to discover the other things that I personally have interest in, the other things that I can do. Now I'm beginning to figure out who I am as a person, as opposed to who I was told that I am. And now, when you happen upon that information, I promise you're going to be confused, because it's like, okay, do I continue this thing that I'm already doing because it's the predominant thing that I know how to do, or do I want to like explore this version of myself or explore that version of myself? And I chose to do all at the same time.
And did it ever mess with your head? Did you just go like one day, you know what, my head is too hot, I need to just
I did
stop?
Quite a lot of things in a short space of time. And let me say this, the reason why I was able to do it is because I was young. So a lot of times, a lot of women fail to experiment.
I was actually that was going to be one of my next questions. Yeah. Like, you know, does age factor into it, especially as a woman? Does it help you pivot better, or does it hinder you? You know, like the older you get, do you want more stability, or the older you get, do you feel like life is short, I want to do what I want to do? Do you have that revelation? Or so like, is it an advantage or a disadvantage when you get older and you think you want to pivot?
While there are no rules, there are also rules.
Yeah.
With everything in life.
Yes.
So for me, I know for a fact that the reason why I was able to do all these many things at that time is because I was young, I was naive, and for those two reasons, I was incredibly brave. I was incredibly brave. By the age of 24, I had done a magazine, I had run a restaurant, I had a fashion business, I was making clothes, I was hosting events, I was doing jingles on the radio for companies. I was doing things.
Girl, what?
And I wasn't even 24 yet. Like, when I packed up and moved back to Nigeria at the age of 24, I had done all these things already. So when I say it was youth, naivete, and as a result, madness. It's madness. It's actually madness.
Because that's a lot.
But it was all important. It was all necessary, because the lessons that I learned from all those things were what helped me shape who I am today. So in trying and in doing, I was discovering. So I'm like, okay, this is not what I want to do in the long term.
And you had the advantage of youth, so you could just pick and choose, you know, this different
is not who
jobs.
I want to be in the long term. This is just something that should remain a hobby. Okay, this is something that I'm actually interested in, but I don't know if I want to. To be able to do it, I need to drop everything else and focus on it. So I'm not going to do that now. Oh, this is something that right now I have the opportunity to do. I have opportunities lined up around me that I could easily tap into to be effective in it. So I'm going to do that. So those are the things that helped me decide what I was going to do first. So then I had to plan and be like, okay, to be able to excel in what I wanted to do at the time, I was like, I need to leave where I am. Like, I'm not gonna grow past this. I've maxed out this place. I'd done all the things, and I was like, oh my God, I'm still so young. Who am I now? Who am I going to become next? Right? Wow. So then I took Jesus, it's not even a leap of faith, a leap of men. I took a leap of men, and I just jumped into a space where I knew nobody. I moved back to Niger. I didn't even, I was living with someone I didn't even know.
Okay, John, let me stop you right there, because I think we need a break before we take in this story, because I've never heard this before. You told me a little bit about your life, but I'm just like, say, what now? You moved into Nigeria with some...
yeah.
You know what? Let's take a brief break. And of course, we're taking a break with Radla, because I'm parched. And we definitely need to sip on something before we get back into the show. My name is Kel. I'm in the powder room with Debbie. Romeo. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Powder Room.
Fornication. Romeo. Podcast. Miss Romeo. My company. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Debbie Romeo and this is
Kel.
And I'm chilling in the powder room. I would like you all to like, share, subscribe to
The Powder Room
on
YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of the above.
Do it all. Everything. Thank you so much. Bye.
All right, you're welcome back. This is The Powder Room. My name is Kel, and of course, I'm here with Debbie Romeo. Yay. And we're talking about pivoting. And that's the conversation that we're having right about now. Pivoting is basically where you, in layman's terms, you move from job to job, but not without a sense of purpose. All right. It can't just be you waking up and randomly saying, I want to go and be a piano instructor today. And next tomorrow you want to be a bricklayer. And no. There has to be purpose in what you're doing. Yes. So before the break, you were telling me about this particular story of how your parents thought that their child was living a responsible life, but meanwhile she left the country she was in and entered Nigeria to stay in a stranger's house, all in the name of I want to pivot. Sister,
that's not it. I didn't even move because I wanted to pivot. I was still pursuing the same purpose. I just knew that I had outdone the space that I was in and I needed to move somewhere else, right? So when I moved back, I was staying with my friend's mother, who I had never met until the day I moved into her house. Like, I literally was like, oh, I'm going to go back tonight now. And my friend was like, oh, I'm going to ask my mom if you can stay with her. And she was like, oh, yeah, sure, come stay at my house.
Okay, so that's not exactly a stranger because it's your friend's mother.
Yeah, but this is someone who I've never met before in my life.
Who, the friend or the mother?
The mother.
Oh, well, she's the mother.
And the friend was not even living in Nigeria, by the way.
Oh.
So it wasn't. There I go.
Okay. It really was meant. Mm-hmm.
So let me try and put some structure around it. It's that, number one, I knew that I knew what I wanted to do. Number two is that in my head I had created a plan. I was like, I'm gonna move back. I'm gonna go and do I'm gonna look for a job. I'm gonna put some structure around it because I've never lived there before. And then when I'm within that structure, I'm going to learn about the things that I want to do. And then I'm going to move into that space. So when I moved back, I went and I got a job. I was working at Nest Oil. That's an oil company for a year. Like a year and a half. And in that
do you work at an oil company?
I was admin. I'm an organized person. So
yeah. That makes sense.
So I was working, while I was working there, I was making my contacts in the entertainment space. I was meeting people, attending the events, getting familiar with the space, meeting the A&Rs, meeting the label leads, all of that. I was doing that after work. I was going into the studio. I was meeting with artists. I was doing all of that because that was part of my plan. It was that I'm going to go into a place that I don't know anything, but I have to study that space. And while I'm studying that space, I still need to earn a living because I have to pay rent.
Yep.
So that's what I did. I worked. And while I was working the job that I didn't like, I was learning about the job that I wanted.
Okay, so the job you didn't like was basically to pay your bills so that you will not be homeless under the bridge,
and that is
begging.
That is the problem with a lot of people, is that when they're pivoting, they don't think about the bigger picture. You're not going to come and now burden your family with the trouble of you wanting to become, like you said, a bricklayer. Like, don't make that someone else's problem. You have to be mature enough or grown enough to take responsibility for the things that you're about to do. Don't walk into the situation naive and expect that somehow the universe is going to take care of it. The universe does not give a damn. The universe does not care.
So basically, I want to ask now, when you pivot, do all your career plans, like, do they have to be connected? Like, if you're doing this, doing that, do they have to be within the same space? Do they have to all connect to make sense?
So the answer, there's like a dual answer.
Okay.
One is that it depends on who you are as a person. Like for me, all the things that I was doing, all the paths that I was taking were all connected to my creative side.
Okay, that makes sense.
That I was
that makes
doing
sense.
that had nothing to do with my creativity was working in an oil company.
Anytime you mention that, it's just like, it's so
and
weird.
I was there for a reason. So if someone looking from the outside, it didn't make sense to them. But I knew what I was doing. I was still going for shows. I was still being invited to go to Delta State to go and perform. I was still doing things in the space that I wanted, but I had to learn. And thankfully, my parents, they raised me well. Let me put it that way, because it's only when your parents raise you well that they can be confident in the fact that you're walking into a space where they have no control and they can protect you, and yet they're comfortable.
So I wanted to touch on that, on your childhood, where you were like, you had that freedom to be.
Oh, girl, I did not have no freedom.
Oh, you did not have that freedom to be?
I had no such freedom. I was a rebel through and through.
Because I was not going to ask, I really thought you had that freedom, because I was going to ask if that also helped to make your decisions easier, because you had that support that, you want to be able to fly today. Go, my darling, go be able to fly. No, you want to be a cow? Oh, go moo, honey, go moo. Nope. Oh, you want to be a samosa? All right, just sit pretty.
Let me tell you, I'm a pastor's daughter. Both my parents are pastors in a redeemed church. Okay, so let me give you context. And I was a chorister for the entirety of my life, from when I was a child till I was a teenager and finished from and I was maybe like 20 something, early 20s. I was a full-on chorister, like not a wishy-washy chorister. I was leading choir practice. It was me that was bringing the songs and teaching them.
Wow.
That was me. And while I was doing all that, I was sneaking out and going to host my events at night. This is just amazing. The truth. I'll sneak out and go and host my events, come home, wash my face, and go for choir practice. That's who I was. That's just the truth. I was disowned a number of times for refusing to do what my parents wanted and insisting on doing. It's just, I'm going to tell you, it's not an easy path. It was not easy. I just knew that I wasn't. First of all, I'm not a laid back person. I'm a very active person. So I knew that it's not possible in this life that I would do one thing, because my brain doesn't function that way. Doesn't mean that everybody's brain functions that way. There are people, Kel, who are very content with going to school, finishing from school, getting a job, and working that job and growing
till they retire.
They retire and they die. And there is absolutely
nothing wrong with that.
So this is what I want to say. It's that don't put any pressure on yourself to follow the path of a crazy person like myself. I'm aware that I'm not okay. I know that I'm unhinged, and I've embraced it. If I tried to do that thing that they're able to do, I would have lost my mind by now. I would have been completely discontent. I would have been unhappy. I might have been richer. I might have been married with 4 children somewhere, just having a peaceful life. But I would have been deeply unhappy on the inside. And so I had to, you're going to make sacrifices and you're going to face challenges that are going to be life-threatening, which I did face on multiple occasions, choosing this path. But that's just the reality of the life that you choose, and you have as an adult to be able to walk into those situations knowing that this could go well or this could go terribly wrong. But then you say to yourself, if this is the path that I've chosen to walk, then I'm going to embrace the good, the bad, and the ugly. At the same time, you have to have a foundation. You have to have a base, something to go back to. You need to have, it doesn't have to be your mother, your father, your brother, your sister. It has to be, you have to have like a core. You have to have friends, family, something solid behind you, because if no one believes in you, you're not going anywhere. That's just the truth. My parents always, regardless of the fact that they didn't like the way it was happening, my parents have been like a driving force in my life. My parents have very strong parents, very opinionated parents, very prayerful parents, and very loving parents. I grew up in the middle of love. So every bit of confidence that I have in the fact that I can go and do this, I could go and do that, it came from them. And I know that no matter what, no matter where I am, no matter what is wrong, if I call my parents and say this is what is wrong, they're there for me. So whether or not they can give me money to make sure that I carry on going crazy, or whether or not they like how it's happening, I know that they're always going to be there for me. And everybody who is going crazy on pivoting needs to have that, whether it's in your parents or whether it's in your friendships, no matter where it is, you have to have that. Because what it does for you is, number one, it gives you accountability. Because, I don't want to fail these people. I want to be able to, I want to do this thing that I told them I'm going to do. And I'm doing it for me and I'm doing it for them.
So that confidence has to come from you for people to understand. Even if they love and support you, you need to sound like you know what you're talking about and not like you're just waking up and just doing that.
I was never that. Every time I went to my parents with a plan, it was a solid plan. And 90% of the time, I'm going to tell you this, I would have already started working over, like my thing is already halfway done before I go to them, because I know that they're going to tell me, oh, what about this? Oh, what if this? Oh, what if that? They're going to sit down. My dad is the kind of person that would tell you, give me 7 reasons why you think this is going to fail.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. I don't know why it's going to work, why it's going to fail.
Because everyone walks into every situation optimistic.
Yes.
And because we're also optimistic and so hopeful, we never think about the fact that something bad could happen. So my dad is going to call your attention. Yeah, he'll tell you, give me, he had numbers. He'd be like 7 reasons, or give me 14 reasons. It was 7, 14, 21, or 40.
I actually do like that.
Yeah.
I like so it braces you up for the reality of things might not necessarily go your way, and that also helps you to now foresee challenges that might pop up and how you can handle them.
Yes. So that's what that did for me. That's why I said I was raised right. It was very helpful for me to walk into every situation, not with a head full of air, but with reality, like thinking about the reality. Okay, what could go wrong in this situation? Have I ticked all the boxes? Have I done the research I need to do to be able to make this decision about my life? And being honest with yourself in that way, without waiting for somebody or calling someone a hater that tries to point it out to you, is one of the reasons why you could be successful at the thing. Now, the other aspect of it is accepting that when things go wrong, you could be flat on your butt, very broke, and poor. You can be poor.
But that's why you don't have to have an oil company job to fall back on.
Hallelujah.
Oh my gosh, this has been such an amazing conversation and an eye-opener. And if you're listening right now and people have been calling you cray, for doing this today and doing that the next 10 years, or doing that the next 2 years, or, moving from place to place, but you're sure of where it is that you're going, you need to tell them, look, I'm not just wandering, I'm pivoting. All right, we've come to the end of the conversation, and this was such a deep one. I'm still confused at who I'm talking to, because the person that has just been giving you all these serious life-changing statements is really not that serious. So, yeah,
I'm not a serious person.
But thank you for putting your serious hat on, literally and figuratively, for me today.
Let me tell you something. This is me pivoting, okay? I am all of these things. I'm the jokester, I'm the playful girl, but I'm also a very serious person.
Okay, all right, we're going to be wrapping up now. Can you quickly give us your social media handles if people want to reach out to you?
My social media is basically my name, but it's spelled with a BBIE. So Debbie, DEBBIE. Yeah, Debbie Romeo. And yes, Romeo like Romeo and Juliet. Don't ask me any further questions. That's what my father told me when I was born.
Unfortunately, we couldn't take any calls today. And yes, I know I promised giveaways, which will be happening on social media. All right. So follow this channel at TPR Podcast NG. That's on Twitter, on Instagram. Also subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, because we'll be dropping videos of our episodes every Thursday. And of course, follow me at Kel Online. And of course, I can't say follow without saying follow Lagos Talks 913. All right. Follow my family. All right, guys. Thank you so much for this amazing conversation, Debbie. It's time for us to step out of the powder room, but we've had so much fun, of course, with the very best. With the very best of conversations and. With the very best of conversations and company, and of course, my what should I call you? My precious. You see what I'm saying? All right, guys, we have to go. My name is Kel, and this has been the Powder Room. I'll see you next week, same time on Wednesday from 8 to 8:30. Well, we'll be talking to another brilliant person right here. Good night, goodbye, and God bless.